What is up, everybody? I hope you are having a fantastic evening. 53-man roster is set. The 49ers have signed some players to the practice squad. We've got to make our season predictions as we are just over a week away from the NFL season officially kicking off. I don't know where I was the last time I did a show a couple days ago with Coach, but I thought we were like weeks away. I don't know. All month I've thought it was early August, Neil. I don't know what's going on with me. My dates are off, but what I do know now is we're about a week away from the NFL season. We're going to hit this intro and we'll be right back. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports. We are giving you our take down to the last second. I got my guy, So Real, Sunil in the building. What's up, Sunil?
Living the good dream, man. Living the good dream. Can't believe football's a couple weeks. Wait, you said about a week? What's the
Bro,
first
it starts
day?
next Thursday.
Oh man. Oh man. Oh man.
Right?
It's on.
Like,
Let's do it.
I don't know how that happened. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways. Because what's today's day? No, hold on. Am I tripping still? No way.
So September
It
Labor
is
Day
2 weeks away, right?
September 1st is on Monday. Because I know.
So it is 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
See, I still don't know when the NFL season starts. Like, my gosh, bro.
I didn't, but yeah, 2 weeks away. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Hold on. Let's see. No, bro. No. Thursday, September 4th.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like isn't it starting earlier than normal?
It seems like it, yeah.
Yeah. Thursday, September 4th, bro. Trying to trick me. Not today, Satan. Not going to happen. All right, listen. So the 49ers not only made their roster cut downs, but it's been a day. And here's everybody so far that I know that they've signed to the practice squad. Cornerback Eli Apple, Junior Bergen, the only draft pick that they didn't keep anyways. William Bradley King, Derek Canteen, Robbie Chosen, Travis Gibson, Jalen Graham, because you can't quit Jalen Graham, that's for sure. Drake Nugent, Curtis Robinson, Malik Turner, Sebastian Valdez, Braden Willis, and Nick Sakel. A lot of familiar names there, but overall, 53-man roster. Like, what were your thoughts when you first looked at it? Now that you know the practice squad guys, just anything surprise you? They brought back Thomas Morstead as well. They signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So they're definitely making some moves.
Yeah, and I apologize. I think my camera is freezing. Hopefully my audio isn't freezing as well. But
no, I can hear you good.
I mean, the biggest thing to me, Jesse, was just, usually we do these 53-man rosters and, they allot, 5, 6, 7, 8 players per position group. And usually the position group that has a little bit more, right, might have 7 players, 8 players. We know, okay, they're like focused on this position group, or they feel like they have depth here or whatnot, right? And this year, the amount of defensive linemen and offensive linemen they had on the 53-man roster, to me, was what stood out. Like, I know that they're usually deep there, but it was like double digits for both, I think, which is, I feel like, more than what I'm used to. And then obviously having like barely any wide receivers was another thing. So those are the two things that really stood out to me. As far as the overall roster, players that made it, didn't make it, I felt like there wasn't too many big surprises. Obviously not having a punter on the roster initially was like, what? But clearly that was clearly, Thomas told me to relax. So I did after that. But yeah, for the most part, I thought that there wasn't any major surprises outside of just how many linemen they held on to.
Well, yeah, I don't think that there was many surprises. I agreed with you initially, though. Like, the biggest takeaway was the receivers, because There was talks that Jawan Jennings might end up on IR. Cowling, they did put on IR. That's how they brought Morstead back, by the way. You got the Demarcus Robinson suspension. Brandon Ayuk's not going to be available week 1. So there was, well, first 4 weeks at the very least, there was a lot with the receiver room. You only kept 5 receivers, yet Jennings and Cowing might be on IR. So the fact that they brought in Marcus Valdez-Scantling, we also learned that Kendrick Bourne, there's some interest there. Who knows what else is going on? So that was number 1. Number 2 was the linebacker position because it came down to 3 guys: Tatum Bethune, Cam Robinson, Jalen Graham. Now they brought back both. Is your dog like in the room, like shaking or something? What's going on? Huh? Is that okay? I was like,
My
am
bad.
I tripping? I swear I hear something. Anyways, they ended up bringing back Cam Robinson and Jalen Graham to the practice squad, but Tatum Bethune beat him out, which was great because I thought it was a real battle between those 3. They could have gone with either of the 3. They went with Tatum Bethune, and he had a great preseason, so it was good to see that. Chase Lucas has become a fan favorite. He ends up making the team. I feel like Chase Lucas is the guy that if the 49ers were on Hard Knocks, every fan would love. And then he would end up getting cut, except for in this case, he didn't. He just made the team. And I think he deserves it. It is interesting because now I feel like they're very heavy as far as nickel corners potentially go. But he's one of the best corners on the team, proven out through the preseason, through training camp, everything. So it'd be hard to leave him off. And then I would say the last takeaway I had was special teams matters. They kept Luke Gifford and Sarah Neal specifically for special teams. And they had some tough decisions to make at linebacker and the cornerback room. And so for me to see those guys kept, it means that they are all in on special teams, although Jake Moody's still on this roster. So I don't know, I mean, in one ear, out the other. I don't know exactly, but I do know that at least the rest of special teams they seem to care about by keeping those guys. So those were my biggest takeaways when I took a look at everything.
Sure. And I mean, ultimately, I would like to know kind of what's your stance on just the talent overall on the roster, like compared to maybe what your expectations were before the offseason. Now that you see the finished picture, like how's your feeling of the overall roster?
I mean, I feel roughly the same. The reason I feel a little bit worse is because Jawan Jennings is still hurt. We don't know if he's going to play week 1. And then your rookies, pretty much all of them, at least along the defensive line, missed significant time during training camp or OTAs or both in some cases. So the fact that all those guys are trying to learn the league, Michael Williams didn't even play in the preseason. Like it's just not good. It's not good. These guys have some catch up to do, and it's going to be really tough to do that over the next week or so for them to be ready. That's my biggest concern is week 1. I looked at Seattle as that was like a slam dunk win. In fact, I made a hat bet on it, and I'm not feeling so great about that hat bet right now, if I'm just being honest. So
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing is just the very beginning of the season. It might take them a couple weeks to get going. So
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think this offseason and preseason didn't really show much. We didn't get to see really that many of the starters play. We never got to see everybody together and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Obviously, I think it's the right sentiment is that there's probably a ramp up here. I mean, usually this team isn't one that comes out hot by any stretch of imagination. They usually do struggle a little bit in the first half of the season. But what I am excited about is just the confidence that I feel like the defense is going to be significantly better than last season, Jesse. And for me, that is something that should make this team overall better than last year. And obviously, hearing how Brock Purdy kind of analyzed his last season and some of the changes that he's focused on this year, I think all of that points towards a better season than last year. But obviously, that's a very low bar because last season was trash.
yeah, for sure. Steve-O says Moody missed 1 field goal and 1 extra point. 85% stop whining. He had 7 kicks, Steve-O, and he missed one. And then he missed an extra point after coming off of a bad season, after not being in a real kicker competition, after changing his kicking approach, and after the season before missing a kick in every single playoff game. Sure, man. They spent a third round pick on him. We'll just stop whining about Jake Moody. That makes so much sense. Absolutely not. Hugo says, wondering what your haircut would look like on Sunil's head. Someone's got to crop it. Haven't seen you without a hat in a minute. Hashtag Hat King. Appreciate you. So, somebody's gonna do it. Dave says, my guy Jesse, the guy that loves Lyle shenanigans. It's so funny because the people that don't like Kyle think I love Kyle, and the people
No,
that
he's
love
saying
Kyle
and the
think I
guy.
hate
He's
Kyle.
talking about me.
Oh, and
he's
the
saying
guy.
my guy
Okay,
Jesse
okay.
and the guy.
Oh, and the guy. Okay, all right. I got you. I was like, I feel like I can't win. It doesn't matter. It's just fair and balanced takes apparently piss off everybody. It is what it is. All right, let's talk about some of the moves. So I mentioned Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They're interested in Kendrick Bourne. They traded for Brian Robinson Jr. What was that, like right after we had gotten off the show, basically? And then we knew about Sky Moore. What do you think overall about the moves that the 49ers have made, bringing in some outside talent? And then does it move the needle for you? Like, just overall, what were your thoughts about everything?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think the moves that I like the Robinson Jr. trade a lot. Obviously, that running back room was extremely depleted, and I think Brian Robinson was the starter for for Washington, and they obviously everybody was raving about Washington last season, and Robinson Jr. had a big part to play with that in that offense. So him coming in doesn't need to be the bell cow because obviously CMC is head and shoulders above him. But I would hope that it could balance out, to take some pressure off of CMC, and and I think that Robinson. I don't know why I kept saying Justin, but Robinson being able to just focus on 8 to 10 carries per game or 6 to 8, whatever he gets, and maximize that, I think could be good for him as well. And then I think MVS coming in, a solid vet that can be productive, more of a deep threat than a possession receiver, which is why I think you're hearing the rumblings about Kendrick Bourne with Jennings being kind of up in the air. Getting a guy that can be that reliable kind of outside guy that could play more possession. I think that yeah, I think if they bring Kendrick Bourne in, I think that that would kind of move the needle based off of what was there. Now, is it better than what I thought we were going to have with Ayuk, Jennings, and Pearson? No, that's obviously significantly better, but better than what we maybe 2 weeks ago we expected the starting wide receiver core to be. I think that if they get Bourne in, MVS Bourne and Pearsall is better than what we were looking at previously.
Yeah, slightly, I guess. It's not where you want to be. I'll say that. I mean,
Sure.
You're right. It's probably slightly better than what it would have been. It's just, to me, Jawan Jennings is so important in this whole thing. It's like he right now, because of Robinson and because of Ayuk not starting the season, they need Jawan Jennings. Like, that was their top. That was 1, 2, and 3 essentially. You could say maybe Pearsall was 3, however you wanted to look at that. But that's 3 of their top 4 at the very least, and it's certainly number 1 and number 2, however you slice it. That would be huge if Jennings is out. And so, yes, they're not void of weapons by any means. I guess you still have George Kittle, you still have Christian McCaffrey. They play huge in the passing game, but it would be nice to have a true outside wide receiver. Ricky Pearsall, I think Ricky Pearsall is going to play just fine. Kyle Shanahan, no matter what, I think is going to be smart about how he uses him. I do think he's going to move him around, put him in motion a lot, give him the two-way goes. I don't think he's just going to throw him out there and be like, all right, you're the X receiver. You just stay there and be stationary. That's not his game. That's not how he plays. So no matter who's out there, I think that Ricky's going to be able to eat because of what Kyle's going to do with him. But overall, it definitely makes it super tough. The question I have, I guess, with the Brian Robinson Jr. trade is it looks great on paper, especially for those that really like Jordan Mason. And I'm one of those guys. Like, okay, well, this is a satisfactory replacement, especially given the fact that Washington's paying for most of the salary and you didn't give up much. But is he actually going to be mixed in? You said like, oh, maybe he can get his like 8 carries. Like, okay, yeah, that's great, but CMC is still CMC. And I don't know if you saw, there was a podcast that came out like a few days ago where one of his ex teammates talked about how selfish he was, how he would never come off the field, and he was half joking, but you could tell like there was some seriousness to it. He's like, what running back gets 6 carries in a row and doesn't come off the field? He's like, it was crazy. Like, it's not, he basically waves off coaches, which I noted week 1, 2 years ago against Pittsburgh. I noticed it. He was waving coaches off like, no, I'm staying on the field. If he continues to be that guy, is the coaching staff going to be like, hold him accountable and actually put Brian Robinson in? Or is Brian Robinson Jr. just there only to be a factor if Christian McCaffrey gets hurt? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, Kyle Shanahan, early Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers used a rotation of running backs very, very well, right? We had the three-headed monster with Coleman, Mostert, and Breida the first time they made it to the Super Bowl, right? And then obviously CMC is much more talented than all of those guys. And so you use him more than a rotation. But I think that, look, I don't know what the politics are there, the dynamics are there. I would assume that if CMC wants it, is looking at his future, he needs to understand that, look, I got to be healthy for this team to be successful. And one way for me to be able to be healthy is, at least during the regular season, not take as much uh hits and as many hits, and be able to kind of balance myself to be fully as healthy as possible for a playoff run. And I think having a guy like Robinson Jr. there can definitely take that load off for him. Now, if he wants to stay on the field, it does have to come down to Shanahan, and it does have to come down to whomever is managing the rotation, because I know Shanahan doesn't really do that because he's the play caller. To be able to have that conversation with CMC and be like, look, we know you're our best player on offense, but we don't need you to play, to touch the ball 25 times in the regular season. We need you to be healthy come playoff time. So we need you to focus on 18 to 20 touches, whatever it is that we want you to stay at. And we got to start using these other running backs as well. So hopefully they have that conversation. Whether or not it gets executed that way, Jesse, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. But it's not like Shanahan hasn't used the rotation and it's like he wants to just feed one person over and over again. To be honest, that's never really been Shanahan's style. It's usually by by committee. So I would assume that he would want to go back to by committee just because of all the health scares that have happened in this running back room.
Yeah, I would hope so. And at the end of the day, he is the coach of the team. So Christian, like you just don't get to choose that anymore, especially the way that he played last year. I would hope that Christian would actually want that as well to a certain extent. Like we're trying to preserve you for the playoffs. We're trying to make the playoffs here. And if we make the playoffs, we need you 100%. And the only way we make the playoffs is if you are on the field game in and game out. So you kind of got to play ball here. So hopefully
Yeah.
that's the case. And Joseph Ehrenberg says, Jesse, is it hard to be on the NFC West roundtable knowing that 3 other teams are miles better than the Niners? I don't think they are miles better. In fact, we're going to get into that in just a minute. Catalyst says, thoughts on the secondary, concerns at safety. Will Lenore truly move outside or remain in the slot? I think, well, first of all, I think Lenore is going to be the number 1 outside corner. I mean, they've paid him to do such. He is clearly the best corner on this team. I think the secondary, there's certainly some question marks. I think that there's a high ceiling for it, but Diamador Lenore does concern me. He just does. He hasn't played like 170 snaps or something like that last year on the outside. He graded pretty well there, pretty decently, but he hasn't done that full time. He played over 500 snaps as the slot corner last year. And so now he's being asked to do something, which they're two different skill sets. We know that he's very, very good on the inside. Does that translate to the outside? So far, there's been enough data to at least say, I'm going to question it, because the joint practices, he was getting cooked by no-name receivers. Then we saw it happen in the actual game again by guys that just aren't special in this league. And so now you're going to be asked to guard all the special receivers from the opposing teams. I don't know. I love Demo, Oregon Duck. Was ecstatic when they drafted him. He's been nothing but amazing, but they are two different skill sets. And I have my questions on whether he can actually transition out there. And if he can't, then the secondary is going to be in real trouble. If he can, the secondary should be fine. What do you think, Sunil?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really hard to judge because this defense is how you play the the talent that's on this team, Jesse, impacts the way other players have to play on this defense. So it's, a Diamador Lenore playing on the outside in preseason when Nick Bosa isn't playing, and, Mikael Williams isn't playing, and Fred Warner isn't playing, and, all these guys that defenses have to pay attention to when they're on the field, and that, affects what the quarterback and what the offensive coordinator can call. It's like you said, it's a different skill set. It's also a different skill set that you need when those players are on the field. So nothing I've seen in actual gameplay, meaning on like in the play in the regular season games, in games that matter, Jesse, I've never looked at Diamador Lenore and said he is incapable of doing X, Y, Z, right? So maybe in these joint practices, maybe in the offseason, I mean, we've actually seen him play in meaningful games, and he's always been, one of the best corners, if not the best corner that we had. So I wouldn't think that he's going to take a step back now that his number is called, especially with the kind of character, attitude, and confidence that he exudes. I would expect him to thrive in this position. And just overall defense, man, I'm not too worried about it. I just think that this defense knows what it needs to do. And when everybody's out there on the field, I think that this defense is going to be a unit that's tough to deal with. We know we got the right defensive coordinator there. So I'm not worried as much of the defense. Unfortunately, where I am worried more on is on the offensive side, which, it isn't good, because obviously Kyle Shanahan is the head coach and he's the guy. That side should always be, really, really good, but we'll see, because like you mentioned, man, I think there's a lot of talent there, but are the right choices and decisions are going to be made? Hopefully we'll see.
Steve-O says, I don't judge people by where they were drafted or how much they make it. That's your mistake. If I judge content creators by subs, I wouldn't be here. That doesn't really make that much sense, to be honest with you. I mean, essentially, like, as a content creator with 30,000 subs, that's like, I'm like a 7th round pick. So like, if I make it, then awesome. Right. But Moody was a 3rd round pick. He's one of 2 kickers drafted before the 4th round since 2006. There's draft value. There just is. And kickers in round 3 is not it. And we can remove the 3rd round pick if you would like. He still isn't a good kicker. He could have been a 7th round pick. He could have been whatever. The problem with him being a 3rd round pick, and this is why you have to judge it that way, is because of roster politics. The only reason he's still on this roster, quite frankly, is because he was a 3rd round pick. If he wasn't, he'd be gone. And I'm very sure of that. So it does matter that he was a 3rd round pick. But even if we remove that, he just hasn't been good. I hope he's good this year. Doesn't mean he can't be good this year, but to act as if we just can't be skeptical based off of what we've seen, and then also missing just one kick in the preseason and just one extra point, as if that shouldn't concern us. Yeah, I'm concerned about Jake Moody, and I think that's a very fair take. Joseph says, has Jed lost faith in this regime and even team since he is buying a lot into soccer? Also, is this season a throwaway before it has even started? Ooh, Snail, I'll let you take that one. I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Jed has lost faith in this regime. I think that he's just being smart. Like, ultimately, I think the moves that he's making, the amount of cap space that he's not spending, the kind of contracts that they've doled out to guys like Purdy and what they're not doing, even though they have big needs on the offensive side, the amount of capital that they're not using to fill some of those positions, to me is kind of just like, hey, we've given you 9 years, and you guys, I've given you everything you have asked for over those 9 years. I'm not going to do it anymore because I have to keep my options open just in case this isn't the regime that's going to get us, that elusive sixth, Super Bowl. Whether or not it has to do with him buying into soccer, I mean, that's a business decision. I don't think, they whatever they're doing with their money is their money. Like, I don't think that's necessarily affecting what's happening on the with their football team. And whether or not this is a throwaway before it even started, I don't think that's the case either, because I do think that Shanahan and Lynch are playing for their foreseeable futures. Like, they're making the decisions and coaching and GMing for, their jobs. Now, whether or not that plays out, the season is there to find out. But I don't think that it's a throwaway season. I do think that it's an uphill battle, though, just because of the injuries that they're already dealing with, and the fact that they have talent that isn't going to be coming through till like week 6, that plays pivotal roles in Mustafa and Ayuk, which if they were here week 1, I think we'd be talking about a way different trajectory for this team.
Yeah, I do too. And I mean, that's the unfortunate thing in the NFL. Fortunate and unfortunate. It's not an NBA season or an MLB season. You can't just throw games away. So that is a big deal. The way they start the season now, what they do have is some very winnable games, that's for sure. So I think that they can be okay, but everything that needs to go well will have to if they're going to start out with a decent record, in my opinion. So we'll see how that pans out. But yeah, I tend to agree. I don't think the soccer thing really has much of a hindrance on the 49ers. I think that the 49ers needed to clean their books. Said it last year for the season. I said it last year at the trade deadline, and it's exactly what just needed to happen. They did it a little bit later than what I would expect, but they still did it, and kudos to them for that. It needed to happen. The team was over the hill as far as the Super Bowl window, and the only way to get back there is you have to take a bit of a step back to take that step forward. And I believe that that's what they're doing. I think it's the right decision. I really do. And with that, like, I don't expect a Super Bowl this year. They should make the playoffs, or at least should be a 10-win team, and that should be enough to get them in the playoffs. But I'm not expecting a playoff win or Super Bowl or anything like that. I'm just expecting for them to compete and win more games than they lose at this point. So that's what I'm looking for. But let's make some predictions. And not just with the 49ers. I want to know what the record is of all the teams in the division. So who's the team that you have in 4th place in the NFC West?
I'm going with Seattle.
Oh, Seattle. Okay, I like this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what's the record you have for the Seattle Seahawks?
I'm thinking like 8-9, 9-8, one of those.
Okay. Why Seattle 4th?
I mean, I just think coming in new, there's just a lot of new people on that offense to be able to just gel right away, right? It's brand new. It seems like brand new receiving core. Obviously, they got a new quarterback. I think, didn't they replace? They get a new offensive coordinator as well. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
they got Kubiak.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they got a new offensive coordinator. I just think it takes time for that to gel. I think, in their favor, Sam Darnold has switched systems like left and right, and obviously did well in Minnesota, but I don't think he has the same. Obviously, doesn't have a receiver with the same caliber as Jefferson, and yeah, I just think they're going to take more time to gel just because of so many integral pieces that are just brand new to that system.
Interesting. Okay. I'm gonna go with the Cardinals in 4th place. I've got them at 9-8. I think the Cardinals have actually improved. Their roster is better year over year. Their weakness was essentially their front seven. They spent a ton on the defensive line, and I think that that's going to make a difference. It's really hard to trust Kyler Murray late in the season. I don't know what it is about something is clearly missing from his game. He's been in the league far too long to just be like, all right, he's gonna break out. It yes, he like stature wise doesn't have it, but physically he has all the gifts you could want. He's got the arm strength, he's got the speed, he can throw on the run, he's pretty accurate. Like he's got all the intangibles physically, but mentally there's just something missing, man. It is what it is at this point. And when I look at that team, if I'm putting all my trust in Kyler to elevate them, which quite frankly their roster is better, I don't know that it's better than maybe the third best roster in the division. It still might be the fourth best roster. And so if I have to rely on Kyler to be the difference maker, I just can't trust that. So I've got them at 9-8, Kyler and the Cardinals fourth place in the division. Who do you have third place? I imagine it's the Cardinals.
So this one was tricky for me because it really depends on how healthy I believe Matt Stafford is going to be, right? Because I think that the Rams, and maybe this is spoiler alert, I think the Rams either win this division or they're like in third or fourth place, just because no team that's led by Jimmy G is going to be winning this division, right? So
the Hemi G disrespect is out of control, brother. Do you not? This man carried on his back the 49ers to a Super Bowl and an NFC championship. Did you forget that?
I just know that we've seen Jimmy G and Devontae play together. And we also know Devontae hated getting thrown the ball from Jimmy G. Like there's actual video evidence of Devontae Adams not wanting Jimmy G to be his quarterback. So that to me is where it is. But it does seem like Matt Stafford is, going to be playing week 1, and I know that he's going to be having to be on a stretcher to get him off the field if he is playing. So I'm going to assume Matt Stafford is going to play the whole season. So then, yeah, I will put the Cardinals there at 9-8. I just think that they have way more weapons on defense than they've had under this regime. And we know that this coach is a defensive minded coach. So to have the type of weapons that they have, I think they take a leap. So I see them at like 9-8, 10-7, and being the third team.
Okay. All right. I like it. I have the Seahawks in third with the same exact record I have the Cardinals with at 9-8. I just think that they'll be slightly better within the division, and that'll be the tiebreaker. I will say this though. Seattle is the hardest team for me to judge in this division. On one hand, I agree with everything that you said. It's like, okay, new offensive coordinator, Sam Darnold, you lost some weapons at receiver. All of those things are true. But on the other hand, I look at them and I see a little bit of 2019 San Francisco 49ers in them. They put so much draft stock into the offensive line the recent years, and it hasn't necessarily come together. They did it again this year in adding another first rounder in Gray Zabel. They replaced their offensive line coach, and they brought in a run-friendly offensive coordinator in Kubiak. They've got the two-headed monster at running back. I could just see this team running the ball 30 times a game and being really, really hard to stop. And Sam Darnold, at the very least, is good enough to play the Jimmy Garoppolo role. Like, he can do that. You have a young, good receiver in JSN, which was like Deebo Samuel. You have the old veteran like we had in Sanders and Cooper Kupp. And then really the difference maker is the defense, which is stacked with young talent all over the place. They are so deep on the defensive line. Linebacker depth has improved a ton. The secondary is so good. And then you've got McDonald, who's the guy. We know that he's a hell of a defensive play caller. I could see a scenario where this team gets like 11 or 12 wins, gets into the playoffs, and then wreaks havoc because they can run the ball and play defense, and that travels no matter what. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I definitely could see it. I'm just not sleeping on Seattle. I want to see week 1. We're going to know a lot in about 10 days. We're going to know a lot, in my opinion, about who they are and who they are. Maybe the 49ers come in and win that game. I'm obviously picking them to do so. I've got a hat bet on it, but if Seattle comes in and just runs it 35 times and kind of embarrasses the 49ers defensive front, then it's like, oh shoot, the league might really want to be on notice here, because if they can do what they were able to implement in the preseason and this offensive line, all the talent that they've drafted high finally gels, I could see a scenario where they're a problem. I really could.
Yeah, there's a lot of what ifs in that too. So it could go either way. And to me, I think there's just way too many new pieces in that
It's all
system.
offensively though. One thing that's not a what if is that defense is going to be very good. That's factual.
Sure, but I think I think that defense has been good, and it hasn't necessarily led to that much success for the Seahawks in since when? Since Carroll has not been the coach there. So I just think that ultimately, until I see their offense actually being able to be consistent, I just don't. I don't see them as a massive threat unless that offense is better than what they've shown over the last however many years.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have to be able to run the ball. I think the unfortunate thing for them is that they've had really bad, the last two offensive coordinators they've had are really bad. And they didn't know how to run the ball worth a lick. And then on top of that, they just weren't well coached on the offensive line either. They did get a major upgrade as far as offensive line coach. They added Gray Zabel in the first round. I don't know, man. I don't think it's that far fetched. I hear you. A lot has to go right. And again, I've got them at 9-8, so it's not like I'm leaning into this prediction that they're going to be a problem. I just could see a scenario where they really could be, and I think we're going to find out quick. Like, we're going to know week 1 exactly what they are, in my opinion, and we'll find out real soon. Hopefully, I'm right as far as my hat bet goes, and that my gut, my starting the process of this gut feeling that they might be a problem goes away, and I'm like, all right, no worries. I don't have to wear a stupid Seahawks hat. We're good to go here. But man, I'm definitely more concerned. I was very confident the 49ers were going to sweep them up until about 3 weeks ago, and now I'm pretty worried about week 1. So we'll see. Joseph Ehrenberg says they will start 0-5 and then go 12-5 and win the Super Bowl. All right, I'll take that if that's the case. I don't want to start 0-5, but I'll take it. Okay. Who do you have finishing third in this division, and what's their record?
Second.
Or
We
second
did
in this
third,
division.
yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
I actually got the 49ers finishing second,
Okay.
being like 10-7, 11-6, and making the playoffs with that. I think they come in as a wild card team. Yeah, I just think that obviously there's question marks there, but I think the easier schedule, along with the defense, I think taking a significant step forward, is what has been kind of the MO for this team being able to make the playoffs and have have some success there. So I do see the Rams potentially being a little bit better as far as like tiebreaker type stuff, but yeah, I think the Niners come in second.
I agree with you, man. I agree with you. I think that 10-7 is about where I've got them. I could see 11-6 as well. The schedule certainly is much easier, but this is not the same 49er team from 2 years ago. They're not that dominant team anymore. And I don't think that you can look at, outside of like maybe the Saints game, look at that schedule and be like, that's a for sure win. There's going to be a loss or two on almost every team schedule that you don't expect. And the 49ers are no different. And the 49ers also are not the team that's just going to come in and roll teams the way that they always have. They just don't have that talent level anymore. And so if that is the case, then they're going to be in a lot of tough games. What I like about this, though, is that that's going to build character, not only for this year, but I think it's going to build character for the future, because I think that they're going to learn to win these tough games. And that's why ultimately they're going to have a good enough record to get into the playoffs. Learning how to win close is an art. And I think that that's an art that Kyle Shanahan does need to work on. I think for Brock Purdy, it would be great as well. And really just this whole team. I mean, they've kind of either been front runners or really, really bad. This is the first year, in my opinion, that they're going to earn a playoff spot with a roster that might not be good enough to make the playoffs in a lot of other seasons. And so because of that, I think that long term, it's going to be a major, major win for this team. But because of that, I also think that they're going to be about 10-7, and they'll make the playoffs. They'll make the playoffs at 10-7. That should be enough to at least get them in the seventh seed. And I agree, number 2 in the division. So we both have the Rams. Why do you have the Rams winning the division?
Yeah, and all this is contingent on Matthew Stafford, because if Matthew
For
Stafford
sure,
isn't the
of
starter
course.
for the majority of the season, I don't see them as the number one seed. But obviously they won it last season. I think that their team has they've gotten some pieces that I think are better. I think their receiving core is going to be better. I think that defensively, giving them another year, I think that they're going to be better. And look, I mean, I love Kyle Shanahan, but Sean McVay is a better coach than him at this point, right? He's won, and he's been able to, be more consistent and be more uh, successful consistently than Kyle Shanahan. So I just think that they have the pieces right now. I don't think they're gonna like win the division by like 4 or 5 games or anything like that. I think it'll be maybe a game or two at the most. But as long as Matthew Stafford's there, I think that bringing in Devontae Adams, make him and Puka are going to be amazing together. They got solid running back, and I think their defense gets even better this season. So for me, I think they're the class right now in the NFC West, and it's their division to lose.
I tend to agree with that. I just look at it and say, I think their offensive, again, this is on paper. Their offensive line got better on paper. Their defensive line certainly got better on paper. And it was all at the end of the season, that defensive line was pretty dominant. It got better because those guys got experience. The year 2 guys are now year 3 guys. The year 1 guys are now year 2 guys. And they added Puna Ford, who's a very, very good player. He's going to make a major difference for them, especially in the run defense. Then their number 1 corner to start last season is now their number 3 corner. Like he's still on the team. It was the number 1 guy, but they've added enough talent to where now he's the number 3 corner. That team's just really, really good. Devontae Adams is clearly better at this stage than Cooper Kupp, and Matthew Stafford is still Matthew Stafford. I know that like 49er fans hate the Rams, deservedly so, all of that. I don't understand how people objectively look at this roster and don't think it's the clear best one in the NFC West and aren't picking them because of their fandom. Like, it's one thing to hate a team, but if you're trying to be objective, they're the best team in the division. They just are. They are based off of how they finished last year. They are based off of the roster, all of it. So, for me, it's pretty clear that the Rams are the best team in the division, and they might be the best team in the NFC. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But okay. No, I'm not going to be able to do it. I was going to get in one, actually, real quick. One bold prediction. Just give me one bold prediction for the 49ers.
This is John Lynch's last year as the GM of the 49ers.
Whoa. Slow your roll. I didn't say that bold. I just said bold. I didn't say like, jeez, dude. Okay. Well, you've got to make in the playoffs. Do you think that that's going to be like a mutual thing? They just aren't going to renew his contract and say it was mutual and he'll go back to TV, or what? Why?
Yeah, I think it's going to take more than making the playoffs to get him re-upped. I think it has to be, I think they have to win the Super Bowl for John Lynch to want to come back, or more importantly, for Jed York to want to re-sign him. I think that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, there's enough friction there to where if this isn't a completely successful season, meaning winning Super Bowl, that they shake things up.
Okay. I didn't expect you to go there. Gee, that kind of threw me for a loop. I'm not going to lie. Okay. Well, I had some positive ones. I'll just give you one. I think Nick Bosa has his highest career sack year this year.
Ooh.
Yeah. I think that Robert Saleh is going to scheme the hell out of him getting some free runs at the quarterback. I also think that just the way that the defensive line pans out, the way that they're more of a contained defensive line, that it's going to force quarterbacks towards Nick Bosa. And Bosa's just going to get some cleanup sacks that he's not normally privy to, on top of him just being a really good pass rusher on his own anyways. So I feel like Nick Bosa is going to have a really, really good year. And I think the way that they've managed him during this preseason has been pretty smart, just to get him full ready to go week 1. I think Nick Bosa is going to be a real serious problem this year. I think he's going to remind a lot of people why he is an elite pass rusher, because I do feel like we've watched him for so long and the sack numbers haven't been there. I think a lot of people are starting to sour a little bit on Nick Bosa. I think that they're going to remember this year how good he really is.
One question before we sign off. Does Jake
Yeah.
Moody make it through the whole season?
No. Absolutely not. Okay. All right. Well, there it is. Way to end it on a sour note, Sunil. You knew I would answer it that way. Everybody have a blessed night. I'll be back soon. Much love to everybody that contributed, everybody in the chat supporting the stream. Greatly appreciated. Peace.